Today we're going to take a look at how we can reach coast FIRE by the ages of 30, 40, and 50 years old. First up, what is FIRE? Well, financial independence, retire early, is a movement that's focused on extreme savings and investment that allows individuals to retire far earlier than traditional budgets and retirement plans would typically permit. FIRE is a collection of strategies where people don't want to work at a 9-to-5 traditional job all the way through to their retirement, but they're looking for a way to achieve a financial goal that allows them a lot more freedom in how they spend their time. There are several variations of FIRE, but I find that Coast FIRE is one of the most appealing because it is fairly easy to achieve. This variation of FIRE emphasizes the fact that an individual has saved enough money early on so that they no longer need to actively save for retirement. In summary, they no longer need to worry about how they're going to cover their expenses in retirement, and instead, they only need to focus on covering their current expenses, which of course provides a lot of flexibility in the type and style of employment they choose. In looking how to reach Coast FIRE by particular ages, we need to make some base assumptions. There are a set of formula, and values need to be plugged into those formulas to analyze those various scenarios. Let's start with the assumption of an investment annual growth rate of 10% per annum. The S&P 500 has achieved this over the past 50 years, but please note that we've reached this number by reinvesting dividends that are paid out by an investment in the S&P 500. We're also going to assume an inflation rate of 2.5% per annum, so that will eat away at the annual growth rate, but it means that any forecast numbers that we come up with are inflation adjusted. We're going to assume a retirement age of 65, and this varies quite a lot depending on where you live and also whether you are male or female. We're going to assume for now that your retirement annual expenditure is $65,000 per year or whatever currency that you work in, and we want to achieve our Coast FIRE age 5 years from now. So if we want to achieve Coast FIRE by the age of 30 and we're currently 25, we're going to need to have $80,000 invested and be contributing $2,500 per year to this pot. Now, this is fairly aggressive. I'm sure that there aren't many 25-year-olds that have $80,000 lying around. But this isn't the only path to Coast FIRE by 30, and we'll take a look at the calculator in a minute to see how the individual inputs change the calculation. What about reaching Coast FIRE by the age of 40? Well, if we're starting at the age of 35, then your retirement pot is going to have to be $165,000 with an annual contribution of $5,000 per year. And finally, if we're trying to achieve Coast FIRE by the age of 50, starting at the age of 45, we need $340,000 saved, and we need to be contributing $10,000 to that pot per annum. When I started this video, I said that I liked Coast FIRE because of how achievable the goals are, but looking at the numbers on screen, they can be terrifying. By the age of 45, you need to have $340,000 saved and be in a position to contribute $10,000 per year. Most people will not be in this position. The good news is that you don't need to have such a large retirement pot and contribute such a large amount per annum if you start doing so earlier. Let's take a look at this in more detail by examining the last scenario that we had up on screen. Right now, in order to hit Coast FIRE by the age of 50, we need to have $340,000 invested and be contributing $10,000 per year. But let's say we were able to start just 5 years earlier. That means that we don't need to have such a large retirement pot in place. In fact, we could reduce our current invested assets down to $200,000 and actually achieve Coast FIRE 1 year earlier. If we were to start 10 years earlier than in our original example, that means we could cut our retirement pot by half, down to $100,000 in total. However, our annual contribution value is still quite high, especially for someone that's 35 years of age. So what if we modeled a scenario where we instead had $150,000 in our retirement pot and sliced our annual contribution number down to just $4,000, less than half of the original number? The key takeaway here is that getting started early is definitely much better, and that's because of the power of compound interest. Feel free to model your own scenario using our Coast FIRE calculator linked to in the description of this video. Let us know in the comments what your path to financial independence looks like.